ambassador here at Relatable, and I'm here with Peter Lasowski. He's the founder of Relatable, and we're excited to join you today. We're going to talk about something that we've been working on for the past few months, and it's really a way for you to promote your podcast, and I even say your live streams, about how to grow and interact with your podcast audience. So I've come up in conjunction with Peter with like a 6-stage template process that kind of helps you grow that audience a step at a time, starting out with how to introduce your podcast to new listeners. Then it's how to get those existing listeners engaging and also reminding them about upcoming shows. And those are the two things we're going to focus on today. But we also have come up with how to request feedback, how to get testimonials and success stories, as well as creating interactive quizzes and even how to get guests. And so this is something that we've really put a lot of thought into, because I think as someone that's been live streaming and podcasting for several years, and Peter has as well, I think what we find the biggest challenges is like, how do I grow my audience? How do I build that community? And that's really what Relatable is all about. Relatable is about building know, like, and trust. Relatable is a new category design. It's interactive video relationship software. It's not just interactive video. And so, Peter, why don't you tell folks what brought you into starting Relatable as well? Because, I'm always geeking out about all the stuff you're doing with it.
Yeah. Just real quick, you guys, the reason why I did Relatable was I'm a big Megatrend guy, and I was looking at the socioeconomic shifts that have already happened online. A lot of you guys know the first one is, people, whenever they're looking for something, even, live streams, podcast shows, are going online doing their own research. So that's one. Second is everybody's watching or listening. So we're in a world of video and audio these days. Not a lot of people are reading anymore. And so that's a big one. But I do know that no matter whether it's a person that's in podcasting, sales, service, whatever, your customer base, or your listener base, your patient base, they're looking for relationships, not just transactions. Okay. So, but they want things that are personal and relevant to them. So, you guys can relate to podcasts. One size fits all podcast shows doesn't cut it. And really, if you think about it, people are looking for content, but they also want to give feedback to you guys on like, hey, I like this content. I didn't like this content. Would you maybe have a show about this so I can learn about this, right? Because, let's face it, Jim, unless you're Joe Rogan, who's the unicorn out there, people are looking for content. They're not looking for a particular person. So those are some of the quick things why we developed Relatable, because it's already these behavioral shifts that have happened already. And, being a podcaster myself, it was like, yeah, everybody touts, I have this many downloads, but what does that really mean? I mean, I would rather have the ability to get a listener base into an audience email list that I can interact with and I can ask for input and things like that. So hence why Relatable.
Yep. And quick hello to our friend Marco Nova, watching from Portugal. So thanks, Marco, for joining us. I know it's early evening there, or maybe even late evening, but appreciate you jumping on. And Marco and I have talked. He's definitely interested in moving with Relatable. He does a lot of live streaming. So this is something you can use really anywhere. So Peter, let's kind of get right into, I guess, what we would call the first one, and that is introducing your show to people. And so what I'm going to do here in a moment is I'm going to kind of show you guys in kind of a quick time, as opposed to making you watch the whole thing, the video that I've created for myself and Chris Stone with Dealcasters, so you kind of get an idea of what the experience is like. And so this is the video in the player, and I recorded this previously. And so you have the people tap to watch the video, and so this is me explaining what our show's about, what ideally what people want to learn about it. And so I'm able, and the viewers even able to fast forward until you get into an interactive. And so in this first one, what we're really looking to do is let them know what our show's about, and at the end, give them some ways that they can learn more about the show. And so in this case, we do what we call a touchable. And in Dealcaster's case, we've given them 3 choices. They can go check out our YouTube channel, they can check us out on Amazon, or they can go to our website, which is also, we use Podpage. So Podpage allows them to go listen on their favorite podcast player. Now, even though these are buttons, we could actually make these into images, and you can customize this really based on whatever you want to do. And the nice thing is these buttons are built into the system, the branding colors, the fonts, you can match it to what your brand is. And so that's one of the things I find exciting. But this is like, right, this is so simple. What is the show about? Where do people learn more? So that's really what we thought of as step 1, because I don't know you yet, right? This is building that know, like, and trust. Peter, anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, the only thing I'd add to that is, guys, so Jim created this. It is very simple. So you're probably wondering, like, well, what do I do with it, right? So within Relatable, you can share it anywhere you want. We have a QR code, so if you want to use QR codes out there, and we have links. You can also embed them on your website, your podcast page, however you want to do it. If you want to share them in socials, whether it be, LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever, you can share those there within these social channels, and it's built right into Relatable to make it super, super easy. So that way you can, Jim is now working in Substack and experimenting with some of the live. You can put your Relatable inside Substack. Jim uses some of the networking like Alignable and others where you can share it there. So the idea is, when you create this, now you want to get it out to the world in what I call fishing holes, right? So wherever the people are that might be interested in listening to your show, you can use a QR code, a link, or a built-in Relatable to send that out. If you have an email list, you can send it out to email. But there's lots of different ways to share these.
Yeah, and in fact, Peter, since you brought that up, so this is the back end of Relatable. So, this first one up here is the video I just showed you all, but this kind of shows you all the ways that you can share your Relatable. You can copy this link, you can paste it into a blog post if you wanted to. There's that QR code, text message, email, WhatsApp, LinkedIn post, direct messaging, same with Facebook. We're actually working, I think, on getting this to work with Blue Sky, and so the other thing is you get the data, the analytics, and you can also clone the project. You can export and when we say export the app, you're really sharing the code of this actual video to someone else that's got a Relatable, where then they could actually make it their own. So that's another great feature as well.
The only other thing I'd add, Jim, to this, and we were talking about this off air before the show started, is, so let's say you did this one like Jim did, where you talk about what your show's about, and down the road, maybe you had a slight shift in your show approach with your partner. You have all these links and all these QR codes out there. So instead of having dead links and 404 pages and whatever, all you do is you go in and you change the video in Relatable. All those links that are out there, all those QR codes, they're still live, they're still good, and you just changed and updated your video. So you never have to worry about, well, where did I put those things over the years? Because you just change it at the Relatable platform, and when anybody clicks on a link, even if it's been out there for 2 or 3 years, it's still going to bring up the latest video recorded.
Yeah, and in fact, Peter, we talked about, I was part of Ross Brand's 5th edition of 100 live streaming and digital media predictions, and I actually gave Ross a link to the Relatable probably 3 months ago, and I didn't even necessarily know what I was going to say, but once I knew that the link was in the Kindle version, you can't obviously put a link in a print version, I was able to go in the night before the release and change the video to be something more current. And I actually had a reminder for a show that Chris and I had last week. Well, I can go in there now and I can change that video again. I could change the reminder again. And so, not only does this apply with our podcast and our live streams, but this is also a great tool for other businesses. And really, I know we're focusing on podcasts, but I can't think of a business or, service area that this can't benefit.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so, we got a bunch of people watching. Great to see my friend Chris Stone is here. Good to see you, Chris. And we've got, Peter was saying hi to everyone as well. And Ryan got to meet through Brian Wallace. Great to see you today, Brian. He's a local in Atlanta. And we appreciate. And Shannon, you're not too late. Shannon is a great podcaster and also is in the radio industry like you, Peter. And he's out in Phoenix, so I know he's
awesome.
He's a great guy, the Shan man. And so now we'll kind of get into what we call the second stage that we came up with, and this is an example of and you can make these custom thumbnails. This was a show we had Justin Moore on, and so what I was doing here is describing what Justin was going to be talking about. We were interviewing him in our upcoming show about his new book, Sponsor Magnet. And so what happens is, the reason I'm fast forwarding, obviously, so you guys don't have to watch the whole video, is that this is where we added a reminder to the viewer of this video. And so what the reminder does is literally is going to bring this up inside of the video, the ability, without requiring any sort of opt-in, the calendar. So this was going to put it on your calendar with the reminder. And in a minute, I'll go over to show you guys how this actually works. But once they close this reminder and click next, the video continues. And so in this case, we continue to talk about what's going on with this upcoming show. And then at the end, just like we did with the first one, we created the ability, or I did for this experience for the viewer, hey, here's how you can learn more about Justin. Here's how you can learn more about Dealcasters, or if you wanted to, learn more about Relatable, we put that out there as well. And same thing, I went with buttons to keep it simple, but we can also use graphics as well to do that. And let's see, we do have a question.
And those
here.
are, just like what Jim was saying, those graphics you can create that in Canva, a free version.
Right.
What I do here just real simply is create, 4 square buttons with your branding and colors, and maybe even having Jim's face on, or what's this guy's name again?
Justin. Yeah.
Justin. You can have Justin's face right on each of the buttons, so it makes it personal. So there's lots of, and you can put them on the screen however you want. That's another, we're not going to get into that today, but you can set it up so it's, towards the bottom of the screen, at the middle of the screen, towards the top of the screen, whatever you want to do. And you got to remember, most of these people that are interacting with your show, interacting with your experience, interacting with social, they're on their phones around the world. I mean, it just is, LinkedIn, 88% of all people, if you guys do LinkedIn, they're on their phones when they're on LinkedIn. They're not on a desktop.
Right. And I'm going to drop this in the chat here in a second, just to make sure that it's working.
Maybe can you show them the calendar itself? So
yes. I'm going to do that. So first, I know Alan had asked if we could give him the website. So Alan, I just dropped the website in the LinkedIn chat, and I'll also put that on the YouTube chat for those that might be watching over there. And but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you guys kind of how this works from the back end standpoint. So this was the one with Justin. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to pull up the video, and I am going to have to do some what we call tab flipping in StreamYard. And so you guys aren't going to hear this, but I'm going to fast forward, and then we'll get to this point here where this is where the calendar pops up. And so now when I click it, all right, and I'm going to add this. Now, if you're doing this on a phone, it's actually going to give you, if they've got an Apple device, it'll actually let them add it to their Apple calendar. Since I'm doing this on desktop, it is using Google. So when I click
So it's
it to
either
add it
Google
to Google,
Calendar or Apple Calendar,
yeah.
one of the two. Yeah.
So this is what it looks like. And it's also got inside of there the reminder with the link to the show. And so as we tell people when they're watching this to make sure that they go ahead and close that tab to come back. And so once they've done that,
Hold on before
yep,
you stop though. One thing I want to point out, guys, this is where it gets really fun and powerful for you. So Jim is talking. If you look at the bottom, join Dealcaster Live with Justin Moore. Now that comes when the reminder hits. It comes as a push notification on their phone. So whether it's an iPhone or an Android phone, doesn't matter because you get the push. They tap on it. That custom message comes up. But maybe Jim wanted to make that link a special message from Justin Moore. And he can do that. He taps on it, and guess what? Justin Moore now pops up, who's your guest, and he starts talking to your audience and saying, "Here's why, here's what I'm going to cover, and some of the things you might want to learn when you show up." So the power of these reminders is it's not just an SMS, it's not just an email with text. It is an actual custom message with another relatable that pops up and creates another personalized video experience.
right. And so then once we've gone ahead and we remind them to close it out, you'll see now we have this next button. And then once we hit next, we're right back to continuing the video. And so, at the end, this is what you guys kind of saw the condensed version of. We have the ability once again to decide where we want to take them. Now, one of the things I want to do too, so you guys can also see kind of the power of this, is we're going to go into, this is the setup for this specific video. And so right here, this is where I set up that reminder. We can edit the reminder. Oh, I got to make sure I share this tab instead. There we go. So we want to edit this reminder. And as you can see, we have the ability inside of here to make this quite a bunch of different things. We could do this, one-time event, days, weeks, months. We can give the duration. And we can also even make this a series. So if this was a weekly thing, it could pop up. And then if you could also add additional reminders on a future date. So this comes in really handy. Like, let's say I'm in a group that we have a weekly Zoom meeting, and we'll call it the Zoom master didn't know how to let everybody know that. I created a relatable with the reminder that had every one of the upcoming meetings for the next 8 weeks. When they click that reminder, it's on their calendars. I didn't have to ask for email. I didn't have to ask for phone number. It just automatically is allowing that to be put on there, which I just think is a huge, not only time saver, but you think about convenience. And so I think, for me, and I think Peter, you would agree as well, so many of us in the past, when we've had, shows, it's kind of like, how do I get it out there? Because when you're fighting the algorithms, right, as much as you might have all these people following you, it's like, oh, I didn't see it. Even when you send invites and things like, even LinkedIn, not everybody saw the invite that's watching on LinkedIn, because maybe they didn't get to their little networking tab where it says, hey, you got invited to this live stream, because there's just so much of that. So the other beauty is you can take this video and put it into an email. So if you have an email list, now you've got that thumbnail, they click it, now they get that reminder. And I've found that I'm getting not only a higher open rate, I think we were talking, Peter, what I've been getting about 60 to 70% open rates, but even my click-through rate has probably tripled or quadrupled to probably about 9 to 15%. And so, so this is just kind of the beginning of what you can do with this. And, you can keep it simple, but for those of you that get creative, there's just, I would almost say the sky's the limit as far as the experience you can create.
You've got, and you're going to talk about because you got 4 other templates. You'll talk about that in a second. One thing though I want to stress for you guys, everybody's watching this live or going to watch the recording of it, and that is what Jim touched on in there. When you set up that reminder for the listener for your show, if you have a weekly show, bi-weekly, once a month, let's say you have a weekly show, you just do the drop down, choose weekly. And the power of it is when they click and they put that on their Google Calendar or their Apple Calendar, you can put for the duration or have it repeat forever, and it pops on their calendar, and every week they get a push notification about your show. So basically it's easy and convenient for your listeners, and it's easy and convenient for you. You do it one time, you set it up, and then it just runs. Now, if you ever want to go, like Jim said, if you want to go back in and change the video for that message, well, then you just go ahead and you go in and put the new link in for the video. But the nice thing is they don't have to, every week you don't have to send this thing out, and every week they don't have to put it on their calendar. They set it up once, and if it's weekly, it just, for whatever duration or for repeat forever, it's on their calendar.
Right. And as you get more, if you want to call it sophisticated, understand how to use this, you can have another relatable as one of those links. So say, for an example, with that one that we showed earlier, like to start your show out, it's like, hey, and if you want to become, part of our community, they click that, and it then takes them to that relatable that I showed you second, which now they get the reminder for the upcoming shows. So that's another, big piece of this that a lot of people, don't realize that is capable with this. The other thing too that we've got coming up that we're really excited about is February 10th and 11th. You don't have to come both days. We're doing what we call a podcast accelerator training. It's free. If you sign up, and I'll put the link here shortly, we're going to help walk you through setting up these at least getting your first one done. That's really the goal, is to get you started. I would almost say that really ideally get the one going that introduces your show to people. Maybe you're ready to do the one where you do those reminders, because we're going to come back next week and we're going to be talking about some of the next steps, which is the one, getting feedback. And by that, literally meaning that, you get them to opt in. And now it's like, if Marco tells me like, hey, I'd really like to see Peter on your show, I know that Marco sent that. And maybe say, hey, well, I don't really know Peter. Can you connect me with him so we can talk about that? Or maybe it's like, what topics would you like them to follow? And then we even are looking at a lot of podcasters, right? We don't have that ability to introduce what we do outside of podcasting. That's where these future relatables, we're going to talk about how you start to let people know about the business that you perform as well.
Yeah. And the nice thing too, the only thing to add to that, Jim, is, guys, the cool thing about this is not massively time intensive. You set it up once and it just runs. So for example, getting people to become aware of your show, like Jim showed you today, set that up once. The other one where you set on their calendar, you set that up once. Now, yes, Justin is one person that's coming on Dealcasters. So that one, if you want to do it, every week or bi-weekly, depending on the frequency of your show. But all the other ones Jim's talking about, like interaction from your show, you can set that up as one video. You do it once and it's going to run over and over and over again as you build your audience, right? And the power of this thing, though, again, I can't stress this enough for all of us, live casters and podcasters, is this is engaged experiences. In other words, now your listener base or your viewer base has the ability to interact with you and give you feedback about your show and let you know what else they'd like to learn about on your show. So if you want listener loyalty, not only can you collect that audience email list and interact with them, but you can ask them for engagement and feedback. And Jim's going to teach you how to do that this next week. So Jim, when's the next live?
So next week we're gonna come back and we're going to talk about the next two templates in the series, and it'll be at 7 p.m. Eastern. It'll also be on YouTube, so if you can't make it live, you'll be able to watch the replay. And let's see, I think we got a question maybe from Alan. Yeah, so he says, are we using this instead of, say, Linktree? Well, actually, Alan, you could put your Relatable into a Linktree. This is where it's about getting creative. They click that Relatable, and now they're having that interactive video. The point of doing these interactive video relationships is we want them to see us, hear us, get that comfort with us. There's some things built into Relatable, teleprompters, if you want to just do bullet points that we'll talk about at some point. I know it's also some things we'll be sharing through the YouTube channel, that it really, right, this is where we think the future is going, and it is video. So be yourself. That's why we're doing this live, because this isn't scripted. This is something Peter's like, hey, these are the things we want to talk about. We love the fact, Alan, as an example, that you're asking questions, right? It's that interaction that makes this so powerful. And the development team with Relatable is continuing to look at what are the things that we can add to make this even more interactive.
Yeah, it's you guys, for all of you, I'm sure some of you listening or watching the recording, you went to Podfest, which was just this last weekend, right? And I'm sure when you were there was a big discussion about video, and a lot of you guys are switching over from straight audio to live streams like Dealcasters and such. Our podcast show, Can You Relate, that we're starting in February, it's our second one, is going to be a live stream show. So we all know, it's like I said, that's the thing that's shifted. The world has shifted. Everybody's watching or listening. The cool thing about watching, though, is, especially with Relatable, is you get the watching, but you get the interaction, right? Because even like there's in Dealcasters and Jim and Chris's show, people are watching, but they're also asking questions. Like here, there is some interaction going on, which is super cool. But how do you do that, with your entire audience? As you build this audience email list, instead of sending them these boring emails that no one's reading anymore, you can send them relatable, interactive experiences. You can send them these push notifications with interactives based on their calendar. That's, like Jim said, that's where the world is going. People nowadays, you're going to see more and more. I always say passive video is kind of like the 8-track tape of the music industry. It's where email marketing was in the early 2000s. It's having its heyday now, no doubt. But there's going to come a time where it's going to not be as prevalent. And the reason why is because people want to be seen and heard. They don't just want to be talked at, right? So that's the whole idea of these live streams, the whole idea of relatable, interactive video relationships. It's all having this dialogue, right? And those, I believe, that do with their shows are the ones that are going to have a long lasting, successful show. Those that don't, they're going to kind of fall away.
Yeah, definitely. But and we saw Katrina had asked, hope we'll have a recording of this. Katrina, we'll make sure to send you a link to the recording. It's also, like I said, on the YouTube channel. I believe you can come back and watch the LinkedIn since you accepted the invite, but we'll make sure, since you made a comment, to give you that as well. We didn't want to take too much of everybody's time. We greatly appreciate everyone showing up. If you've got further questions, if you're catching us on replay, please put it in the comments and we'll definitely get back to you. I've shared in the comments the sign up for the accelerator as well as the website if you want to learn more. And so, Peter, any final thoughts?
No, I think that's it. We're at our 30-minute mark. We showed them what we wanted to show them. So
all right.
Good.
All right. Thanks, everyone.